Well, yesterday we mentioned the laws of reciting a bracha after you did the mitzvah, even though that's not the norm, but there are scenarios where that's done. We spoke about lighting Shabbos candles and lighting Yom Tov candles. That is there a difference? Shabbos candles, we said you have no choice. You have to first light the candles and then say the bracha afterwards, because we are concerned that if you say the bracha first, it'll be considered as if you are accepting Shabbos with the bracha, and then you would no longer be allowed to light the Shabbos candles. And then we mentioned that maybe Yom Tov might be different, because Yom Tov, you are allowed to light candles on Yom Tov, and even if you accept Yom Tov before, you should have no problem lighting from a pre-existing flame other Yom Tov candles. And this way you would be able to fulfill the obligation of a bracha that's supposed to be done before the mitzvah, which is the normal way of reciting a bracha. All brachas are supposed to be done. It's called Iver La'asiyasan. You see this term. Brachas are supposed to be done before their action. You say the bracha first, and then you do the action. You first recite a bracha, you put up a mezuzah afterwards. First, you say a bracha, and then you put the tefillin, then you tighten the tefillin. First, all brachas are meant to be done. First, you say the bracha, then you read the Megillah. First, you say a bracha, then you blow shofar. All of the brachas are meant to be done before the action. First, you say a bracha on Hanukkah candles, and then you light the Hanukkah candles. So all brachas are meant to be done before the action. And here, on Shabbos candles, we see it's done differently. The question was, what about Yom Tov candles? And of course, we know the minhag that our wives are, that we've seen, all the women seem to, do it just similar to Shabbos. But there is a discussion about it, and there is a thought, at least, and it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, a possibility that maybe Yom Tov should be different, that you should recite the bracha first and then light the Yom Tov candles. The next piece of Gemara that we learned yesterday was talking about the espargos, the dangers involved of and what it's good for, what it's bad for. The spitting afterwards, after one drinks it, a person should get rid of the saliva, depending on what type of espargos they had, the one made with wine, the one made with beer. Anyway, it's not so practical nowadays. We don't really have this drink, so I guess it doesn't really apply. But we did say this interesting point that if a person were to have drank the one that should be, that he should spit afterwards, it was so crucial and vital to spit afterwards that even in front of a king he would need to do that. So it shows the sakana, the danger involved. And then the Gemara got into this Kabbalistic or secrets that we found out from angels. Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha found out from the surreal Sar HaPnim a few things, what you should be careful about. Otherwise, you could get captured by the angels of Chavola, the angels of destruction, the destructive angels. And so he said a few things. One of them is not to take your garment from someone else, from a shamash, from a helper. You should take it yourself, and you should not have someone wash you negelvasser unless they themselves wash their own themselves negelvasser first. Don't return the cup of espargos to anyone but the person who gave it to you. And because the groups of the angels of destruction, whichever group it is, the Tachsifis or Istalganis, whichever group it is, they could capture, they could take someone captive. So you never know if maybe this has something to do, different people go through different situations, maybe even mental health issues. You wonder if maybe someone did something like this, and mental health issues, maybe it refers to someone got taken by one of these these malache chavala. You never know if maybe that's the concept of someone is captured by these destructive angels, and they sort of make them crazy, like you can't really live a normal life, or they go through different situations of they're sort of like in the domain of these angels of destruction, and they don't let you go.
Rabbi,
yes.
You mentioned about saying the blessing, saying the bracha before you do certain things. I'm not sure. I forget if you mentioned about washing your hands, where we say the bracha not before you wash your hands.
Right. We did that the other day, so I didn't go over that. But you're right. That is 100% correct. Tosfos brings that about Netilas Yodayim, that there's a blanket rule that because if a person went to the bathroom, they would need to first wash their hands before reciting the bracha. So therefore, whenever we wash our hands, we always recite the bracha afterwards, because of that situation that you can't recite the bracha first. So it became a general blanket rule that always, when washing the hands, you recite the bracha afterwards. But we don't do it completely afterwards. We do it after we wash, but before we dry it, before we dry the hands. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, David. So Rabbi Shua ben Levi then mentioned a few things that he heard from the Malach HaMavis. He heard from the angel of death a few secrets that good to know, I guess. One is not to take your garments in the morning from the shamish, but you should put them on directly. You take it yourself. And the other one is if a person didn't wash negelvasser, they should not be washing you negelvasser. First, someone should wash their own negelvasser, and then they wash. Then they can wash you. And the third thing was not to stand in front of the women when they come back from a levaya. The women that they would do some type of eulogies and so on, and when they would return from after escorting the deceased, they would return, and the angel of death is somehow with them, attaches himself to them, and so he's right there, and you don't want to be near that. You don't want to be nearby, and he's got his sword there, and he has permission to destroy. Yesh li reshus l'chabel, it says. He has permission to destroy, and therefore don't stand before them. And we mentioned a few reasons why the angel of death is with the women. Number one, the women are the ones who brought death to the world because of the sin of Eve, and therefore the angel of death dances amongst them when God is angry. And also the concept of women are the element of gevura, of din, of judgment, strictness, and therefore the angel of death attaches himself to women. And the Ari writes that that's why the snake wanted to speak to Eve and not with Adam. Why did he speak to Eve? Because again, this concept of that Eve is the element of judgment, and the snake, which symbolized the evil inclination, is connected to judgment, is like the angel of death. Same. It says the Satan and the angel of death are all the same person. Now the Gemara then says, so what should a person do if he finds himself in such a situation? So it says he should jump from his place for amos, 6 to 8 feet. He should jump away. If there's a river, he should go beyond the river. And we explained that the water is the concept of kindness. Water has an element of the spiritual element of water is kindness, is chesed. So that it would block the angel of death from coming past it. And
Rabbi, Torah is water, right?
That's true. That's true. Torah, but Torah is also wine, and there's also rischa diaraisa. The Torah has a lot of. It's compared to a lot of things: oil, wine, water, bread. Now, the other thing the Gemara mentions is that if there's another path to go on, in other words, if he doesn't have water nearby, if there's not like a little lake or river or something, so he should go on. If there's another path, he should go on the other path, and if there's a wall, he should go beyond the wall. And if you don't have any of that, then you turn your face away and you say a pasuk. And what is the pasuk? The pasuk you say is Vayomer Hashem el Hasatan Yigar B'cha Yigar Hashem B'cha. Hashem is angry at Satan, and you do that until the women go away. Okay, so that's the little Kabbalistic or mystical stuff that person has to be careful from. The stuff we found out from the angels, from angel of death, and so on, and we also found out stuff from the Sar Hapnim, the angel, the interior minister angel. Okay, now we're going to we started this Gemara yesterday that we're going to talk about the laws of a kois shel bracha, which we said is referring to a kois that you recite berchas hamazon, the cup that you say the benching on, and in addition to the to that, it could be that it applies to kiddush and other mitzvahs as well. So Rashi tells us it's referring to the cup that you recite berchas hamazon on. But I see on the side here also he mentions that the Hagoyis Divrei Nehemiah adds in V'hu Hadin, the same thing applies to Kiddush and Havdalah. And he says, look at the Rambam and the Maggid Mishnah. So there are others as well that seem to emphasize that Rashi, although Rashi just says Berchas Hamazon, he doesn't limit it to Berchas Hamazon. Now, let me mute everyone here. Okay. So what are the rules of the kois shel bracha? So the Gemara here tells us Amar Reb Zera. Let me tell you where we are. Amar Reb Zera. We are by the two dots, maybe about 13 lines up from the bottom of the page. 51a, about 13 lines before the end of the page. By the two dots. Amar Reb Zera says in the name of Rebbe Avo. Amar Reb Avo. Rami Lav Masisatan, and some say it was learned in a brisa. Asara Dvarim Nemru b'Kois shel bracha. There's 10 things that are said about a kois shel bracha. Number 1, toon hadacha. It needs to be washed out, and we'll find out in the Gemara that it means washed out from the inside. Vishtifa. And number 2, it needs to be washed out, and this washing out seems to be from the outside. And it's also brought down in the commentaries that the washing that's done on the inside of a cup needs to be more thorough than the washing that's done on the outside of the cup. And I guess the reason is because the inside of the cup does, it's harder to get the dirt out of it than the outside of the cup, because in the inside of the cup it somehow adheres to the bottom, and you don't have easy access to it. So so the washing that's done hadacha is a stronger washing than shtifa. And but that's the first two things. It's washing from the outside, washing from the inside, washing from the outside. And third thing is chai. It has to be done. You have to pour the wine. We had a few explanations here. Rashi here gives two, but Taisus brought an alternative interpretation. that chai. The reason why there are different interpretations here is because they're trying to reconcile a contradiction here. Because there is a contradiction here where we said earlier that you can't really drink the wine that is undiluted, and or that's definitely not ideal, and it's not supposed to be done for a kosher bracha, for benching. So what does it mean that it's chai? So they're trying to reconcile that contradiction, and so they give different explanations. Number one, chai might mean undiluted wine, and if it does mean that, it would mean that you pour it into the cup undiluted, and then afterwards you would dilute it. Doesn't mean you're going to keep it undiluted. So you pour it in when it's undiluted. And I guess what that means is it's almost like you want something fresh. You don't want something that was diluted a while back. You want something that's being done special. So if you pour it undiluted, you're doing it special for the mitzvah now. So that would be, I guess, a reason why I'm just throwing the thought of why you would want it not to have been diluted earlier, but instead you're diluting it right now in front of you. The reason would be because you're specifically diluting it for the mitzvah. That would maybe be a thought. Another thought would be that it also has an element of freshness to it. So these are just two thoughts that come to my mind why it would specifically tell us to do it chai, pour it in when it's undiluted. Now, Rashi gives, let's see, Rashi over here has two explanations on chai, and the first one we just said that you dilute it afterwards. Another explanation he gives is that you're supposed to pour it from the barrel for the mitzvah of Berchas Hamazon. So in other words, chai means you're pouring it fresh. You're not finding some cup that no one drank, that wasn't drank, wasn't finished, and you're just taking it. Oh, we have a cup over here of wine. Oh, let's use that for the Berchos Hamazon. No, you pour it new you pour it. So that's what chai means. Chai means it was not poured before, but it's being poured for Berchos Hamazon now. It's not extra that you found around. It's actually being poured for the mitzvah now. The other explanation we found in Tosfos earlier, Tosfos on the previous page, he had mentioned that it could mean that the cup is complete without being no cracks in the cup, or it's not broken. The kais should be shulling. Okay, so these are some of the explanations of what chai means, and that's the third point, that it has to be chai. The fourth point is it has to be malei, has to be complete. That means the cup should be filled to the top. A lot of people don't like to do that because that means it's going to spill over, but that's the mitzvah of benching, is that it should be filled to the top. And then the fifth thing is that it should be itur, and you have to surround the cup, crown it with some type of crowning, which we'll see in the Gemara what that means. And ituf, we said, was some type of a covering, and we said it means you put on some type of a hat, not
wrapping.
A wrapping. It doesn't mean a yarmulke, because you obviously need a yarmulke for bracha automatically, and we assume you have your yarmulke on, but it means some type of wrapping, or a hat, or we'll see in the Gemara, it could also mean a talus. And we were discussing if it means specifically a talus or if it means a jacket as well. And but that seems to be the concept of ituf, something special for wearing something special for the bracha. Yes, Mordechai.
Yes, this thing about putting on the head and jacket kind of reminds me when my wife went to Stern College. She once went to the Spanish Portuguese synagogue in Manhattan, and she observed that the men that were getting aliyahs, they had to put on a tuxedo before they got their aliyah.
Wow. That's very nice. Very nice. It is a special thing to like do something special for a mitzvah. That's why, of course, among Hasidim they put on a gartel before they daven. Similar idea, but of course a tuxedo looks nicer than a gartel. Yes, Ezra.
Yeah, after we had our class yesterday, I thought about it some more. I think the first part is a preparation of the cup. The second part is preparation of the individual. And so that goes with your idea that you would put on a hat and maybe put on something, a cape, a talit or something like that, to prepare the individual to make the bracha. And then the last part is basically the things that you're going to talk about now, is the actual process of making this bracha.
Okay, great. Oh wow, thank you, Ezra. Very nice understanding of the way it's the order of it. Okay, good. The sixth thing. The sixth thing we did. The seventh thing is you take it in both hands, and v'noisnoi b'yad yamin. The eighth thing is you put it into your right hand. So you take the cup with two hands, and then you place it into your right hand. So your right hand is actually the one that's holding it. And the reason for this is to show your chavivos, that you want to take it, that you cherish it. You hold it with both hands to take the cup, and you want to take it with all your strength. And then you put it into your right hand, which is meant to show that it is not a burden. And so let's just think about this. So the earlier rules were what you need to do to the cup, to wash the cup, and the type of wine, how much wine. Then we spoke about the person. And now we're saying how you
handle the cup,
how you receive it. Yeah, I'm wondering if you could say, similar to what Ezra is saying, but slightly different. Maybe it has to do with just the order. The first thing you do is you give it to your wife to go wash in the kitchen, or whoever your helper, someone. So in other words, the first thing is they're washing the cup. The next thing is you got to put your hat and jacket on. And then the next thing is you're receiving it. So maybe it's just talking about the order. That maybe it's just a chronological order. That's a thought that comes to my mind now. And maybe that's why it's in this order. But Ezra's explanation is also seems to be a good explanation, because you're holding the cup, you're washing the cup first, and then you're pouring the wine, then you're preparing yourself, and now it's how you are going to do the bracha. In other words, you're going to hold it, so it's like a combination. Now you're how you're actually going to recite the bracha by holding it and by looking at it. Okay, I guess your explanation is, yeah, I guess it's a good explanation. Then so you put it in your right hand, then you lift it. The ninth thing is magbiyai min hakarka tefach. You lift it from the ground a hand breadth, like 3 inches, 3.5 inches. So from the ground. That was when they used to sit on the floor. Nowadays we sit by a table. So you would lift it a few inches above the table, hand breadth above the table, and the reason for that is so that people could look at it, see it. And it is interesting that commentaries discuss what is this concept of seeing it. Is it seeing the cup or seeing the wine? And this is brought in Shulchan Aruch that if it's seeing the wine, then you should make sure that the cup is not narrow on its opening. Because if it's narrow on its opening, you don't really see much of the wine. You see the cup, but you don't see the wine. So this is discussed in Shulchan Aruch and in the commentaries over here, that the Ramah says you got to make sure that the top of the cup is not too narrow. And the Achronim, the Mishabur brings the Achronim, the later commentaries, they all ask a question. They say it means the cup. And who cares if it's narrow, as long as they see the cup. And it is interesting. There is one of the commentaries in the Gemara. The Yavitz is, I think he mentions about his father that he used to use a glass cup. And the reason he would use a glass cup is so that they would see the, they would be able to see the wine. Everyone could see the wine through the glass. So that means that he was careful for the wine, to see the wine, similar to the Ramah. But the it seems that the other commentary, the other halachic opinions seem to be more. They seem to be interested in at least understanding this Gemara, that it refers to the cup and not to the wine. And what is it? It doesn't really say exactly. It says "Nisin boy einov." You put your eyes on it meaning the
I
cup.
can tell you
wine.
something about it, Rabbi.
Yes, tell me.
I want to say, since the glass must be Malay, full to the brim, when you look at it, you definitely will see the wine. It's not that you need a narrow cup or wide cup. The wine is right on top to the brim of the cup. They don't tell you what you're going to look at exactly, because you're going to see the wine anyhow. You're going to see the cup and the wine.
So Ben is asking a good question. He's saying, if you're filling it so high up, so who cares how narrow the top of the cup is? You're filling it high up. It's flowing over the top. So
you're going to see both.
So you're going to see it. You're going to see the wine. So how does this fit together with the other rule? With the rule that that it says earlier that you have to fill it to the top. So I have an answer for you, but I don't know if it's correct. Yes, Ezra.
I was going to say is that you have to pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Pay
In other words,
attention.
just because of its statement, you look at it, you're looking at what you're paying attention to what you're doing. You shouldn't let your mind wander to something else.
That's true. That's correct. But I don't know if that answers his question. Does it? Does it answer why it would make a difference?
I agree with Ben that it means both. You have to pay attention to the cup and the wine, but you have to.
But he's asking that why would it make a difference if the cup is narrow, if you have to fill it to the top anyway? So you're going to see the wine no matter what, how narrow it is. You're seeing the wine because it's overflowing. It's covering over the rim of the cup. It's up to the top. You filled it to the top.
Since that nobody ever spoke about what the form of the cup has. I mean, why are people bringing in this idea of narrow versus wide?
It's in Shulchan Aruch. In other words,
that's what I'm saying.
It's the way to apply, the way the Ramah wants to apply this law. He's saying the applicable situation where would this scenario play itself out would be in a narrow cup that you don't see the wine, but you see the cup. And he said in such a case, this does not fit. It doesn't fit with our Gemara. So if you want to fulfill our Gemara, you should make sure not to use such a narrow cup. It's a Ramah in chapter 183.
Does this Does the Shulchan Aruch make anything? Does it say specifically? Forget the Rama right now, but ask what the Shulchan Aruch says. Does it say anything about the size of the cup, whether it's wide, narrow, whatever?
Well, the thing is that the Beis Yosef and the Ramah make up the Shulchan Aruch. You know, the Ramah is in the actual wording of the Shulchan Aruch. So we would, if the Ramah says it, that we would call that the it's in the Shulchan Aruch. But you're right, the Beis Yosef doesn't clarify this law. The Ramah does, but it's in the Shulchan. The Shulchan Aruch is the Beis Yosef and the Ramah, and the commentaries are on the side. So the Ramah makes a mention of this law. The Beis Yosef, he says you lift it above a tefach above the ground. If he's sitting on the ground, if he's on a table, lift it a tefach above the table. You put your eyes in it. So he doesn't clarify what it means in it, and he says so that you don't move your mind from it, like you explained, Ezra, that you should concentrate on it. Now, but what does it mean? That's what the Ramah is adding. That because you're supposed to put your eyes and not and concentrate on it, not remove your thoughts from it. So the Ramah says, therefore, you should don't take a cup that the piv is tsar, that the mouth is narrow, that you call a gluck gluz. There's I don't know in Yiddish gluck gluz, but that's the guess the Yiddish word. That don't take that cup levarech alav, to recite a bracha. Oh, here he has a Yiddish. Bakbuk, which means like a bottle, some type of a bottle. Don't use that to recite the Kiddush on, to recite the Brochos Hamazon, the benching on. So this is the application of this law, not to put your eyes in it. So again, there is another way of applying the law, and it means the cup should be visible to everyone. But some say it means the wine should be visible. Now, Ben was asking, but how is the wine not visible if you're filling it to the top? So I have two thoughts to answer that question. One thought is, again, it's just a thought. I don't know. One thought is that what does it mean full? Does it mean spilling over? Or maybe it just means, to the top, but it's not above the rim. That's one thought. Another thought is that even if it does mean that it's spilling over, but after it's, let's say, when you pick up the cup to bench on, guess what happens? The first thing that happens is it spills over, right? Your hand gets wet. Because when you lift the cup, I don't know anyone that's so careful that their hand doesn't move a drop, right? And so the question is, do you need to refill it afterwards, or as long as you filled it in the beginning, and it overflowed, then you fulfilled your obligation. It spills out a little, it's okay. So if that's true, that it spills out a little is okay, then that answers your question, Ben. That at the point that it spills out, so now you're not going to see the wine. You filled it to the top, but it doesn't mean during the benching it's going to be filled to the top, and therefore you want to make sure that the cup is not narrow on the top too, so that people will actually be able to see it. Okay, so anyway, but to be looked into, we have to look. Just a thought. I'm not sure if that's correct. We have to look into the Shulchan Aruch to see what the law is.
It sounds reasonable.
Thank you. Okay, so now the Gemara continues and mentions that you should put your eyes in it. Nice and einav boy. That was the 10th thing. And now there's another opinion. Some say that there's another rule. And the other rule is you should also send it as a gift to your household, which means your wife. And the reason for that is that it brings a bracha to her children. And so it's a blessing. It brings bracha to the it brings a blessing to the house. So if you give it to your wife. Now, the understanding of this is that it's even this other opinion, Yeshayim, also say there's 10 rules about this kais shel bracha. It's just that they combine two of the rules earlier into one. And they would say that when it says take it with both hands and put it in your right hand, that's considered one law. So there's 10 laws about the cup kos shel bracha, and how to calculate them. There's if you hold that you have to also give it to your wife, then that would be then you'd have to combine two of the earlier laws, and it ends up being 10 rules about the cup. Now, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, "Anu, us that live after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, ein lanu ela arba bilbad. We only follow 4 of these." Now, what are the 4? Hadacha, shtifa, chayu, malin. These are the main ones. Nowadays, we keep these 4. That it has to be washed, the inside, the outside. The chai, it has to be chai, which means however you translate it. We had 3. We gave 3 interpretations. That it's either undiluted or it's new from the barrel, or it's the cup is chai. The cup is no blemishes. No. And mole, you should fill it to the top. Now, Tana, we learned that I should mention that now Rabbi Yochanan says 4 things. What these 4 things are what we're careful for. Now, the problem is that Rabbi Yochanan mentions later that what about the right hand? When it's holding, can the left hand help out the right hand? So Taisvis asks, he says, you see from that Gemara that Rabbi Yochanan was a little concerned about is the left hand is allowed to help the right hand, or should it only be held by the right hand? So you see that Rabbi Yochanan did care about the nois noi biyad yamin law. And here he says, well, we care about his 4 laws. And he doesn't mention about the holding it in the right hand. So, but later he mentions about the right hand. Can the left hand help out the right hand? So we see that even Rabbi Yochanan, he didn't only follow these 4. It seems that he agrees with that law as well. And then Tosfos says, and we see the other Amay Ra'im, the later rabbis, they seem to have kept some of the other laws also. In other words, not just these 4. So therefore, Tosfos says that it seems that people were more machmir than the letter of the law. People went beyond the obligation. Therefore, he says we should do that as well. We should try to be careful to follow all of these. And one of the other commentaries uses a different terminology. He says that these 4 are crucial. The others, you could do it, but if you didn't do it, it's not a problem. These 4, if you didn't do them, then it could be problematic. So the bottom line is, it seems that even though Rabbi Yochanan is saying all you need to follow is these 4, but Rabbi Yochanan himself seemed to keep another one, and the other rabbis in the Gemara seem to follow some of the others. And so it is appropriate to try to follow all of these laws. The Gemara continues and says that the Gemara continues and says, Tana, we learned in a Brisa, Hadacha mi bifnim, Shtifa v'shtifa mi bachutz. That washing, what is the difference between hadacha and shtifa? They both mean rinsing. Hadacha is a rinsing from the inside, and shtifa is a rinsing from the outside. And I mentioned to you that hadacha really is a little more intense than the shtifa. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Kol hamavarich al kos malei. Anyone who recites a bracha on a complete cup, noisnin loy nachala b'li mitzari. We give him from heaven a nachla, an inheritance without limits. Shenemar, as it says, umalei berkas Hashem, and it's filled with the blessing of Hashem. Yom, the sea, v'daroim, in the south, Yerusha, he will inherit. So the way we're translating it now is not that he's filled with the blessings of Hashem, but that if he fills the cup, he uses a full cup. He's not cheap on the wine. He uses a mole, is birkas Hashem. He's going to get the blessings of Hashem, which is Yom B'Darim. He's going to inherit the sea and the Darim in the south. And now, how does that mean unlimited? supposed to be beli mitzarim, without any limits. How does that refer to unlimited blessing? So the way we're translating it is that you will inherit from where you live, from where you are, all the way to the sea, and from in the sea, you can't live there. So you have the entire world, so to speak, from here until the sea, and from here until the south. And again, in the south, once it gets too hot, you can't live there anymore. So you inherit the entire, you inherit the entire world, an unlimited blessing. So that's that's what how they're learning it from the pasuk, that if you're generous in the cup, if you beautify the mitzvah with the cup of wine that you fill to the top, then you will have a inheritance that's unlimited. Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina says that not only do you get an unlimited inheritance, you are zoicha, you merit, and then you inherit two worlds, this world and the next world. So if you fill your cup up to beautify the mitzvah of benching with a full cup of wine, you get this world and the next world. I don't know if this applies if you just fill it up because you like wine, but if you fill it up for the mitzvah, seemingly that's what we're referring to. You fill it up for the mitzvah, you get this world and the next world. And interestingly, Tosfos over here has an interesting point. He says that, how do you see that you get both worlds? So he says, if you look at the verse, there's an extra letter yud and an extra letter hey. And we know that ki b'ka Hashem tzurei lamim. With the letters yud k, Hashem created the worlds. And we know the letter yud, Hashem created the next world. And with the letter hey, bihi baram, the hey baram, Hashem created this world with the letter hey. So because you have an extra letter yud and an extra letter hey in that pasuk, it's telling you that you will merit by filling the cup up of wine, you will merit this world and the next world. Shnei olamim, this world and the next world. That's how it's learned. So if you look at the Tosfos over here, Zoicha l'shnei olamim, it's the second to last Tosfos. He says, because it could have said Yom v'dorim Rosh. So Yir Rasha is an extra yud and hey. And that refers to the two worlds. The next world is yud, and this world is hey. So that's how you learn that person will merit that. So this is a easy way to get a lot of blessings. It's filling the cup up of benching. In fact, there are a lot of people, even though it's not customary for people to bench with a cup of wine when you only have 3 people, but some people like to do it. And you see how it really has the Gemara says it's a very special thing to have this cup of wine and filling it to the top and so on. You see why some people go beyond the letter of the law, and they like to bench with a cup of wine. Yes, Ben.
I always thought when I see people spilling wine over the cup that it's bal tashchit. They are destroying food.
Right. Well, I like to drink it afterwards. I pour it into the
not from the saucer.
Yeah, from the saucer. I pour it into my cup.
Yeah.
And then I drink it.
Okay,
not the Havdalah. Not the Havdalah.
You don't mashchit.
No. From the 23rd Psalm, it says, Kosi levaya, meaning that my cup runneth over, flows over. So it's a remez to Hashem's goodness to all of us.
Revaya is not pouring over.
No, it says my cup runneth over.
It's full.
That's no. So here you're basically saying just that Hashem will provide and provide over the norm to you. So here, when you're doing it, you're basically that's the remez to the fact that what Hashem can give to you.
Right. So you're saying that's why it's not considered bal tashchis, Ezra?
Right.
So that's an interesting point that it says my cup overflows, but what it would seem is to answer, in other words, if you're supposed to pour it over, so then that's the mitzvah. So that's what Ezra is saying, that it's meant to pour over. But it could be also that if you spill it over, you're going to get a nachala b'li mitzarim. So that's not called baltashkas. You're not ruining things. You're gaining. You're not ruining. You're getting a lot more. You're having a inheritance, an unlimited inheritance. So maybe that would also be a room for thought that why it should be permissible. That normally you're not allowed to ruin something and be destructive when you're not going to benefit. But here your benefit is a lot more than what you're destroying. In other words, like ruining a tree to chopping wood, but you're going to build a table. So here you're spilling over some wine and you're getting, you're owning the entire downtown Texas in Manhattan. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good investment. So maybe that, sounds like maybe that would be as well an explanation. But the other thing is, the real question would be Havdalah, because Havdalah, you are, you don't drink that wine. But Kiddush and other cups, theoretically, you could drink it afterwards. You pour it back into the cup. But the Havdalah, I think, would be the issue of Baltashka. So it's a good question, Ben, and it sounds like a good answer, Ezra. We'll have to see if it's brought in Shulchan Aruch. Yes, David.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but when you're talking about the rinsing and the washing, of the cup, so you said that the washing is more intense washing. So my question is, the rinsing is the inside, and the washing.
I didn't mean to use a different word, rinse or wash. I meant to use the inside is more intense, the outside is less intense.
Oh, but it says hadacha is rinsing and shtifa is washing. So I thought you were saying shtifa was more intense.
No.
Oh.
Hadacha is more. And I don't know I don't know if they're translating rinsing or
washing. They're translating it. And the first one is rinsing, and which sounds more superficial. And the second one, shtifa, is washing, which sounds more intense washing. You're not just going to rinse it, you're going to wash it. Why would you wash the outside more intensely than washing the inside?
I don't know why they translate it.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to be literal with the word, maybe the literal translation of the word, but even though in Gemara it actually refers to, in other words, they're using like a modern translation, I guess, of rechitza versus shtifa. And maybe shtifa sounds more if you think of it in modern Hebrew, but in the Gemara, it does emphasize that the rechitza is a stronger washing. So I guess the question would be why, if in the Gemara, what is the literal meaning? In other words, I'm sharing with you insights from the halacha that it's supposed to be washed stronger inside, but the wording, if you want to go etymologically, based on the word, maybe there is, I don't know, it's interesting that the Hebrew word rechitza, it does sound less than shtifa. Shtifa sounds to me like it's gushing water, like shooting water at it. And rechitza does seem more like just it sounds good according to the way that, they're basing their translation, but it doesn't fit with the halacha. Yes.
So the second thing I was going to say was you were mentioning about pouring the overflowing the wine by kiddush, and then taking that wine in the saucer and putting it back in your cup.
Yeah.
So I was taught that you always put some of the wine that's in your cup into the saucer wine before you pour it back into your cup. You follow what I'm saying?
So it's not pogum?
Well, yeah. So you're not just taking the saucer wine and pouring it back in. You're taking the saucer wine, and before you take it, you pour some of the good wine in your cup into it, and then pour it back.
They're both good.
Okay. Sounds good. Then you get more wine. Sounds good. Yes, Ben.
Just one thing, I looked up in the dictionary, revaya is saturated. So it's not overfilled, it's saturated. So if you saturate the cup, means just filling it,
Well, the thing is, we have to look at the commentaries on that chapter 23.
Yeah,
so if you have a mikraot
and
gedolot,
as far as hadacha, I know hadacha. I only heard it used with kelim, hadachat kelim.
right?
So when you wash dishes, you say hadacha. I don't know. Shtifa is something else. I guess like if you wash a bottle or something, you can say shtifa maybe. But the hadacha I usually see with kelim.
Rabbi.
Yeah, I'm just thinking hadacha. Actually, the Gemara doesn't use the word rechitza; it uses the word hadacha. So hadacha versus shtifa. Yeah, maybe it's not. Yeah, maybe it is a stronger. Maybe literally it does mean a stronger washing, not rinsing. I don't know that hadacha. I was basing it. Let me just see for a second here. Yeah, if it used the word rechitza, then I would question. It would seem surprising that it uses such a term. But hadacha, maybe the literal translation is a more stronger. And I'm surprised the Steinsaltz would use the rinsing. That would seemingly be a wrong translation. Yes, Ezra.
And to support your point about shtifa, we use the term shitafon when water comes down in the desert, and it's basically a rushing water that
right.
So when you're saying shtifa, it probably means is that idea that the water is continuous and continually running.
Right. But for some reason, hadacha means even stronger. It means more like, like rubbing it to, cleaning it better.
Hadacha is like rinse, sluice. I don't know what that means. Wash out.
Somehow it refers to a stronger washing.
So is there any connection with the term nidahat from nidahat with hadacha here?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that.
Idiach is thrust out, so forcing out, I guess.
I have to think about that. I don't know. Okay, so we have 3 minutes left. So let's just move a little further. So we said that the nachal b'li mitzrayim, you get these special brachas by filling up your cup. And I mentioned that's maybe the reason why some people try to be extra careful to even bench with 3 people with a cup. And officially, there's even an inyan to bench, even if you're alone, to bench with a cup of wine, even if you don't have a mezumin. That's very rare to find. I don't know if I ever saw anyone bench with a cup of wine, even alone. To say there, the only time that you would see that is maybe at a seder, because the 3rd cup of wine you're supposed to hold for the benching. And so if you didn't have a group of men at the seder, if you're alone, so then you would do that. But other than that, I don't know how. It's very rare to find. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone use a cup of wine alone. But for sure, but for 3, that is something that a lot of times people will do, and you see why. It brings special blessing. The Gemara continues and says, "Itur." And itur means you crown the cup of wine, the cup again for the benching. And what does it mean to crown it? Rabbi Yehuda ma'atrehu b'talmidim. Rabbi Yehuda would surround the cup of wine with the students. The students would be around him for the bracha. And Rav Chizda ma'aterle benatli, he would surround the cup of wine with other cups of wine around it. So it would be like a lot of cups of wine surrounding this cup of wine. Now, the understanding is that they would have wine in them, and there would be other cups that surround it. So it's it's similar to those so they make these the very expensive silver becher, and they have like 10 small little cups that go around, and you just pour your kiddush into it, and it's sort of like a fountain, and it pours into the 10 cups that are around it. So here it sounds like you do something like that, not in a, maybe, I don't know if it was silver, and I don't know if it was a fountain, but they would actually fill the cups up before the benching, and they would use that for like benching, and they would have a cup of wine surrounded by other cups as well of wine. Amar Rav Chanan uvachai. Rav Chanan says you would fill them, these cups, with wine that is undiluted. Now, Amar Rav Sheshes uvaberchas haaretz. And Rav Sheshes says, and by berchas haaretz, then you would pour from the wine that's in the cups around it, you would pour into the wine of the person who's reciting the bracha. Now, there are a few different ways of wording this. The wording of the Gemara, it's a little confusing, but the way we just learned it is that you actually poured more wine into the person, the leader's wine. So you would add some wine in the blessing of berchas haaretz. That's one way of learning this. There is another way of learning this, that they would add water during the berchas haaretz. They wouldn't add wine, they would add water. And adding water during the berchas haaretz was emphasizing the greatness of the wine of Eretz Yisrael, that it's so strong, you need to add water. And the idea is that you would add water once earlier, and now you would add even a little more water. So you added almost as much as you needed before, because when you made the zimun and you benched, you diluted the wine once, and now you diluted a second time, just a little, with a little water. And this would be emphasizing, when you're thanking Hashem for Eretz Yisrael, you would emphasize that the land of Eretz Yisrael is very blessed, that the wine is so strong that it needs to be diluted. And I'm going to stop here. Maybe we'll discuss the different gersois tomorrow, the different texts. Okay, sei gesund, everyone.
Thank you, Levi.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.